House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 5. We Light the Way. Welcome back. I'm Court. This is Tim. It's a Friends We Made podcast where we just meet up a couple times a week, talk about the shows we're watching. And tonight we are talking about House of the Dragon. If you're interested, please join the comments below, like, comment, and subscribe. So the name of this episode, We Light the Way. Tim, do you know the significance of those words?
It's significant because there hasn't been a named episode that I don't since the first episode.
No, they've been named.
Oh, okay. They're not named on HBO. The first episode was named, and I didn't realize.
You have to look them up. Excuse me, but We Light the Way. Those are the house words of the Hightowers.
I didn't realize that.
So the episode is letting us know that this is significant for the Hightowers. They live in the highest tower in Old Town, or that's where the castle is. It's like a lighthouse. And one of the characters, Laura Strong, was saying that the lighthouse glows green. And then we get Allison wearing a green dress. And going forward, green is basically the color of House Hightower in the show. So what did you think about the episode overall?
I mean, I liked it. There were some unexpected turns, which is kind of what you come to expect. As weird as that is, but overall, I thought it was good. I mean, it was like we had talked about, kind of like the end of the beginning, and definitely kind of felt like that.
So yeah, I liked the episode. There's one aspect of it that I did not like at all, and I'll get to that. But starting at the beginning, we see a new character that we haven't seen before. I didn't really know where we were at. I love the scenery where they're just showing her ride and her horse. It's a beautiful landscape. And then it turns out that we were in the Vale. This is the wife of Daemon Targaryen. Not as unattractive as he made her out to be.
No, not quite.
But, right. And this is one of those things where in the source material, it just says that his wife fell from her horse and she broke her neck or cracked her head open or something like that. So, like that's the only thing they give us with how she died. What did you think about that scene?
I mean, it seemed a little easy. I don't know if he did that on purpose. I feel like he didn't. I mean, you couldn't do that on purpose, exactly. But it kind of came across like he did. And then he was going to leave her there.
Opportunistic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and then he was going to leave her, which was strange because, I mean, if you're going to take that opportunity, you got to realize that she's going to stay alive till somebody gets there, most likely. So it was weird that he was going to leave her. And then brutal, just I'm glad they didn't show it. I was surprised they didn't show it.
Right. And one of the things is I feel like they do it a lot with Daemon. They don't show, they just leave us with like whatever he's doing. The same with the toast to the Air for a Day and everything. Like we don't actually see him make that toast.
Yeah.
But the thing about this, I think they can basically confirm that he's impotent because we see it in like the first episode. He's with his paramour, and she even says, "Shall I bring in someone with silver hair?" And I think that might have played a role into what happened with him and Rhaenyra last week, where it was like he was gonna do it, but then she confirms that they never consummated the marriage, and it was almost like that line where she said, "I know you couldn't finish." Like that's what pushed him over the top, where he's like, "Okay, it's crazy because like he does such despicable things, but I still like the character."
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that last one with his wife was pretty bad, but again, I mean. It's funny that like the histories say it one way, and that's kind of how he portrayed it after the fact. Because again, I mean, what did he really do? I mean, he finished her, but I don't know. I mean, her kind of freaking out.
She's like paralyzed at that point. That's how it looked.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I mean, I know Bran lived a decent life, after he was paralyzed, but just generally speaking, like when he started walking away and she insulted him, Kara was like, "Why would she do that?" I was like, I mean, I'd rather have him finish it. It's not good to be paralyzed nowadays. Imagine like,
right,
that situation paralyzed. I mean, you're just going to live a miserable life.
Right.
So it seemed like that's why she did it. It seemed like she knew what she was doing when she said that. You don't just throw insults like that
when you're helpless.
Yeah.
So then we move on. We see Viserys and Rhaenyra. They're sailing to Corlys Velaryon to make this marriage proposal. Viserys not doing well at all.
No,
he's seasick. But then as episode goes on, it's just like every time we see this man, it just looks like he's just falling apart, like he's about to die. And
I mean, is it the throne that's causing all this? Like I would say, like, cuts and infections and such from the stone or from the swords, but like they're not very clear. Like, it's just he's just weak in general, weak king, weak person,
right.
Like,
I mean, it could be like untreated tetanus. I mean, the maesters are just like, get the leeches. It's like it's not the only medicine in the world.
Yeah,
like,
he took well to the leeches last time. It's like that's all we've done. That's your go-to.
Right. And so it seems like Corlys Velaryon is still a little annoyed at Viserys. Like the greeting, he doesn't give him a greeting. Just Lena and Laenor out there. You juxtapose that to like when Robert went to Winterfell in the first episode of Game of Thrones, and you have the whole family out there. The whole castle is there to greet you, and here's the king's coming, and it's nothing basically. And that's kind of, I think, like a slight in the face. And when you actually go ahead.
I said, oh yeah, no, I mean the king himself, and you greet him without even coming yourself. And you say he's tired after a long trip. I mean, it's the king,
right?
Like, that's lack of respect, 100%. That's all.
And then when he proposes the marriage, you're thinking, oh yeah, this is a great honor. Your daughter, she is the heir to the throne, and of course I will let my son marry her. But he's like, no, maybe, but I got some compromises we need to make here. And I mean, I thought it was cool the way he played it, but it's cool that Viserys is like, yeah, their kid will be the heir, male or female, and yeah, you can call them Valyrian all you want until they become the king. Then they're going to be a Targaryen.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. It's just, again, he's the king. He could have not taken that.
But Corlys knows he needs them.
Yeah.
He got half the dragons and he has the biggest navy. He didn't come there out of the goodness of his heart. He came there because he needed Corlys. But I did find it a little weird. Like, why are you twisting the knife at this point?
Yeah.
So then we get to the next big reveal in the show when they're on the ship back. And as I've stated before in the source material, because it's written by a maester who's choosing what he writes and he has different sources, what happened between Christian Cole and Rhaenyra has been a question for a lot of people, because in the source material, we know that Sir Christian Cole starts off as her sworn shield and her greatest ally. And then eventually he ends up being her rival. They don't get along. And we get two stories in the source material as to why that is, but they don't tell us which one is actually true. And the one story is that Rhaenyra did not want to marry Laenor. When her father told her she had to marry Laenor, she goes to Christian Cole and proposes that they run away together because she doesn't want to get married. Christian Cole's insulted and offended because being a Kingsguard is a huge honor for him. And she's asking him to forsake the vows that he's given. And he is unwilling to do that. The other version of the story, more similar to what actually happens, is Christian Cole goes to her and proposes that they run away together. And she basically spurns him and laughs in his face and basically says, you're a nobody from a nothing house. I am the heir to the throne. I am a Targaryen. I'm not going to be a Sellsworth's wife. And what we see is kind of in the middle. She lets him down way more gently than that. But I don't like Christian Cole at all. I feel like he's partaking in like what I would consider like borderline incel behavior. I mean, he is celibate, so it's a voluntary celibacy. But it's just like, so you were mad at her because she doesn't want to give up the crown to run off with you. Like, that is absurd. You could not have believed for a second that she was actually going to do that.
I mean, I don't believe – we don't know the character well, but that wasn't in character with what we did know of him, which wasn't a lot. So, again, I mean, not a huge deal. But, I mean, I don't know. When he came across like that, like when he just started, let's run away, and I mean, that – I don't know. He hadn't done anything like that. I was surprised.
You froze up a little bit. Give you a minute. See if you can come back. Yep, you're back.
I was say it wasn't even that she like laughed in his face, because I think she might have laughed, but it wasn't like laughing in his face. It was like, don't you see that we can have what we want?
Right.
and
There's no
have
need
all
to do
it's
that.
our cake and eating it too. Like I get to get married, you get to stay as my my protector. We get to be together, and the king doesn't care. So like both the histories from what you were saying, I mean, they weren't really right because nothing from what I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, because he didn't take that well, that's why they would be enemies. But I guess it's coming from the outside. If somebody was telling that and didn't know what the conversation was, I could see how rumor
the
might
truth is
have
never
it.
really what gets reported by third parties. It's always a little planted.
That's interesting. It's almost like extra that they put that in there because it's definitely like from the outside, you could imagine that story would be like the end result, but it goes deeper.
The problem really with what I have with Christian and what he said to her is he told her she could have what she wanted. She could get married for love. But it's like, bro, she never said she loved you.
No.
Like, what makes you think that she loves you? And then the reason that he says he's doing it, he never says he loves her. He says that I soiled my white cloak. I took a vow of celibacy and I forsake it. If I marry you, at least I can get my honor back. Like, this is 100% for him and getting his honor back. Why would she ever do that? She is the heir to the throne. She's not going to run off to Essos with you. The fact that you think that is even a possibility is just ridiculous.
That's why I said, like, no respect. I mean, I don't know. That made me look down. I don't know where he's going to end up in the future, but they kind of made him into a villain, a bad guy. They did it quick.
Because I think it's almost like a reverse Jamie. It's almost like a reverse Jamie where like he's a knight in shining armor and then like he has like his character falls apart, whereas Jamie's a villain and he gets a really good redemption arc. And he's also kind of like a Brienne where like his whole life was being a knight. That was like the best he could ever hope for. Was that one day he would be a knight. And then he ended up actually being on the Kingsguard. So like that's a big deal for him. So the fact that he's already forsaken his vows, like that was a hard pill for him to swallow. But you chose to do it. Like she didn't force herself on you.
No, I mean, it took him like 20 minutes to get all that armor off. He had plenty of time to.
Right. And he was thinking about it every step of the way, but he wanted it. He wanted it. But if you think when they were in the woods hunting the boar and she said how she didn't like Jason Lannister, he asked her if he wanted her to kill him for her. And she kind of laughed it off. And it's kind of almost like, it's a joke, but like, was he serious? Because, bro, you are not going to kill the Lord of Casterly Rock. I don't know what the hell you're thinking. Like, there is no way that's going to happen.
No.
But so then we get back and we see what's going on with Alicent. So Otto Hightower's leaving. He's angry. And then he plants this seed in her head where he tells her, your children are going to be an obstacle to Rhaenyra claiming the Iron Throne. And the only way that it's going to happen is she's going to have to kill your children. And I don't know if that's really true. I know that things like that certainly happen in this world. Joffrey had all of Robert's bastards killed. I think someone like Cersei might do something like that. But I don't know if Rhaenyra would do that.
No, but I mean, that you put that doubt in there. I mean, do you know enough to let your children stay there and to like keep in the position you are? It's going to spur you to make, some kind of decision. So.
Well, the problem I have with it is the fact that Otto Hightower completely orchestrated this whole situation. We go back to the first episode. Daemon's the heir, but Otto doesn't want Daemon to be the king because he thinks he would be too dangerous to be the king. So he talks him into naming Rhaenyra the heir and disinheriting Daemon. But this whole time, he clearly didn't think that was actually going to hold. And then he pushes his daughter to marry the king. He's orchestrated this whole situation. Like, if you think that your grandchildren are in danger, it's only because of all the actions that you've taken. I don't like Otto. He's my least favorite character.
Oh, no. I mean, he's definitely, like, I won't say the villain, but, I mean, he's the one who's pulling the strings and doing it for his own reasons and nobody else's. So.
Right.
Nobody else. I mean, the king just has no string pulling at all. Like, he's just literally just kind of, the strings are puppeting him along. I mean, it's
and not even noticing.
Yeah.
Until it's too late. Oh, I only now see how calculated it was. It's like, right. It took you this long to realize what was happening? And only after your daughter told you?
Yeah.
So then we see Loras Strong in the garden in the Kingswood. And I mean, this character, I said before, he's kind of like the Varys of this world where he has all the whispers. In this scene, he's like the Varys and the Littlefinger.
Yeah,
like
definitely Littlefinger vibes for sure.
Yeah. And my question is, who told him about the moon tea and for what purpose? Because his dad is now the hand of the king. So, and his dad is always giving good advice. So is he having his children do the dirty work? Having his children plant this dissension? Because, like Littlefinger said, chaos is a ladder. So you have Alicent, whose father has just put this seed in her head that, well, I don't know if I can trust Rhaenyra to not murder me and my children. And now she's finding out, oh, and Rhaenyra lied to me last week when she swore on her mother's life that nothing happened. Obviously, she's still thinking that the moon tea was because of Daemon. She doesn't know about what happened with Kristen yet. And so she calls him in, and he just spills the beans. Like, bro, don't ever admit to something that you haven't been accused of yet.
As soon as that was like pretty obvious understandings, and she's going to be talking about one thing, and he's going to assume she's talking about something else. And but just in general, I feel like something that some other series have taught me, as far as saying, like, without not lying when you say something that might not be the full truth. When she originally said, that I was a maiden after that night, there's 100 ways she could have said that would have been truthful, that would have made it so she wasn't lying. And again, I mean, maybe not a big deal. I mean, maybe the queen would have been just as upset, but I think it was really the lying right into her face. And she could have just said, nothing happened, and she could have been honest. So the fact that she said more than she needed to and put her back against the wall, where now she's caught in an obvious lie, there's no reason for that, And either way, it set up this obvious scene. So just that whole part felt a little domino effect to me and seemed a little
And so now, not only is there a rift between Sir Criston and Rhaenyra, he is indebted to Alicent because Alicent knows his biggest secret.
Yeah.
And when he talks to her about it, he doesn't even mention how this could hurt Rhaenyra. It's another thing that bothers me. He doesn't say to her, oh, well, don't tell anyone because it's going to hurt Rhaenyra's claim. He's basically like, oh, I just pray that you give me a quick death. Like, his whole issue is about his own honor. And it doesn't seem like the fact that this is going to be a problem for Rhaenyra even crosses his mind. Or that I should lie to Alicent about this because it's going to hurt Rhaenyra if someone else knows about this. And that was like another thing about, like, all Christians' behavior are very self-interested.
Yeah, I mean.
And so then we move on to the wedding feast scene. And I gotta say, I love Jason Lannister. He might be my favorite Lannister. He's such a douchebag. Yeah, and it's just hilarious to me. Like, he's just like walks up to the king like, women, they be late. Am I right? These dumbass jokes.
Yeah, I know.
And Rhaenyra's like, oh yeah, it's always a pleasure when you're around, Jason. Like, I just love that. I love that that's Tywin's like ancestor. Like this.
But that whole scene, I don't know. I like the vibes in that. I got a very Red Wedding feel from it early on, but that's just because there's some foreshadowing. You knew something was going to happen. I did not predict at all what would have happened. Like, I did not see coming what happened, but it was, it had one of those kind of dark cast to a festival feel that like was pretty obvious. So,
yes. And then Daemon shows up once again. I just love Daemon. Just walks in like, I got exiled, but doesn't care. Shows up. And of course, Viserys isn't going to do anything. Just pull up a chair, I guess.
Literally pulled up a chair.
And he starts his speech, and then Alicent shows up wearing green. And I thought it was a little cheesy how Larys Strong says to his brother, oh, you know what the colors of the lighthouse is? It's green. That means she's calling her people. It's like, okay, that was 100% meant for the audience. That's not a real conversation that he would have had with his brother. Obviously, his brother would have known that too. There's no way that he lives in this world and he doesn't know
and also not cared. She just showed up to a wedding feast. And it was dramatic for us, but there's no reason to have been dramatic for them. They'd be like, oh, the queen's here.
Right. No one else knows what's going on.
She's wearing green. Shut the fuck up. Pass me some more.
Right. And I do appreciate one subtle thing about that scene is Daemon's the only person who doesn't stand up when she walks in. Like, I really like Daemon. I like the way that he's played. Like, he's not always he's sitting there, he's sitting like back, like just doesn't care. Like, just showing like the most disrespect to her. Like he does not like the Hightowers, and he's just gonna let that be known. And so it is symbolic that the series is giving a speech about the power of the realm when the Targaryens and the Valyrians join forces, and then she just interrupts it, and he can't pick up where he left off. He's like, "Where was I?"
Throws him off, and
and I mean he's still looking weak and everything. And so this is the point in the episode where when I was saying there was something I didn't like, and I really did not like the way it ended. And I don't want to be the person that always like complains, "Oh, it was different in the books," because you're gonna make changes, but it's why you're gonna make the changes. So in the source material, Sir Christian does kill Sir Joffrey, but he does it in attorney, and that gives you plausible deniability because people die in tourneys all the time. We saw it in season 1 when Gregor Clegane, the Mountain Who Rides, kills the guy in the joust, and even Littlefinger's telling Sansa that he did that on purpose, like that he meant to kill him with that lance.
Even episode 1 of this show, people died in the jousting, or was that episode 1?
That was episode 1.
2 was it 1? Okay,
it was 1.
Yeah, no, people were dying. Like it was kind of brutal. Like a lot of people were dying.
And I'm thinking maybe they didn't do it because they already had a tourney scene, but that tourney scene didn't serve a narrative purpose.
No, really.
Like having him kill him in the tourney, I think serves a better narrative purpose because it allows him to do it in a way that gives him plausible deniability. And then he can, it was just an accident. No one's going to actually accuse a knight of the Kingsguard of purposely killing someone in a tourney. Here, they don't actually show us what happened or what set him off or really anything. We just see him just wailing on the guy. And it's like, are we to believe that he would be able to just beat someone to death? No one's going to pull him off of him. None of the other Kingsguard are going to stop him. None of the House Valyrian guards are going to stop him. Like, obviously, Sir Joffrey, he would probably have his own allies there. Like, he just beats him to death. No one does anything about it. And then we jump forward in time to them getting married, and he's out about to end his own life, basically. And now we're going to have a 10-year jump forward in the future. And I think they're just going to gloss over it. So they didn't show us why it happened. They didn't show us like exactly what set him off. And I don't think we're going to get to see any of the consequences of it. I think it's just going to be a thing that happened and everybody moved on from it. And to me, that is not the way that would go. One thing we know about Westeros, when someone is a guest in your house and they eat food and drink, you cannot do them harm. That's why the Red Wedding was such a big deal. He could not have killed him at that wedding feast like that and just walked away from it with nothing happening. And I think the only reason they did it is because they wanted to have something happen at the wedding.
Yeah, I mean, that whole feel, like I said, I mean, you could just tell. And I mean, that's what Game of Thrones has lived on is like, good times drastically changing and, just things happening all of a sudden and something you didn't expect. And I mean, we didn't expect that, but I mean, I assumed that he did it because after his conversation with the queen and thinking he was about to die and then finally feeling a bit free. And then, at the wedding, having to watch her and him dance, he's super tense. And this guy comes up to him and basically, threatens him and forces him to accept, it forces him to confront and know that he's going to have to live with confronting often, his soiling his, duties or oaths or whatever. I mean, it was his breaking point. I took it as like I didn't take him like this before, but like a white cloak, like, just somebody who's like virtues just like couldn't handle having to get faced day after day. And, he was just like, I don't know.
I can see that.
And
the thing is, I don't think Sir Joffrey was going up to him to threaten him.
No.
I think everyone else is like, bro, we got it made. Like the same thing that Rhaenyra was saying. We have everything we want. Like, they're cool with it. We're cool with it. I'm not going to say anything. You're not going to say anything. And let's just all live a happy life together. And he's like you said, he has like that Brienne, Sansa Stark type idea of what a knight is, what it means to be on the Kingsguard. He's built this up for himself his whole life. He miraculously got it. Like the idea that he would ever be on the Kingsguard is probably something he never really thought was a reality. Maybe he dreamed of it, but he never thought he was going to get it. And now he's, his honor has been tainted and there's no way of going back on it. But that is why he kills him in the joust, in the tourney. But it is the same motivations. It just makes more sense to do it in a way that you get away with it. You don't just murder someone in front of everyone and walk away from that and no one says anything about it.
No, I mean, brutally. And the soon-to-be king's consorts, whatever he's supposed to be. I mean,
it's someone close to him.
This is, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, no.
Oh, you're freezing up.
It didn't make sense. I didn't even consider really that it would just end there. I kind of considered that now he's done. Kicked off the King's Guard or Queen's Guard, whatever they're going to call it. I kind of took that as the end of him. He's going to end up as like some like long bearded, scruffy looking guy in 10 years who, has a third of what he could have had, that kind of thing.
Well, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but that is not the case. In fact, we kind of know it's not the case in the regular Game of Thrones because there's multiple scenes where he's referenced in the books and in the show. Is when Jaime comes back to King's Landing and he's looking through the book that has all the previous members of the King's Guards and all their deeds. In the book, he's talking to Loras because Loras Tyrell is on the King's Guard in the books, but in the show, he's talking to Joffrey. And they mention like Sir Christian Cole and like all the things he did on the King's Guard. So I mean, his story goes on. Like he stays on the King's Guard. And, I mean, at least he does in the source material, because in the source material, he does it in attorney.
Right.
No one can.
How could you? I mean, he could say he saw him draw a knife, or he could say something silly like that, but I don't know. It doesn't fit. Yeah, it was easy. Again, that's something that I've been letting go, and I'm still letting it go. I still have been entertained. I mean, nothing against the series. I mean, it's not. I didn't expect it to like be hitting grand slams every episode, so I'm not.
Right.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, it's probably more of on the entertaining side compared to other shows I've watched, but it just consistently has these problems pop up where they just got to knock. It's always hard to knock, so much information into a 1 hour episode, but this show is trying to do it for like 10 years at a time, 5 years at a time, 3 years at a time. And I mean, you're just begging to like have a ton of shortcuts. Like I said, you take a book where the person's thinking through something and you get to hear exactly what they're thinking. This is that on steroids, or the opposite on steroids. It's like now we don't even get to know what happened before or after. We just know what happened. So either way, I mean.
So that was probably the one thing about the show that most bothered me since we've been watching it, and it was just kind of like watching the after the episode where the writers talk about it and they mention, well, it was a wedding, so something's going to go wrong, and I was like, well, did you guys do it just for that? Because that's not a good reason to write a change into the show. That's how all the problems with the original Game of Thrones happened, because the writers were trying to like write specific scenes and not letting it make sense in the world that they built. So, I mean, I'm not going to let it like ruin anything for me. I'm still, like I said before, I will rate the show after I watch the entire first season and say how I like it. Like, I'm not going to go on an episode by episode thing, but it was a good episode. I liked the episode, but the ending of it, I was just like, well, didn't make any sense.
No, I mean, we could do a whole show based just on like how people have to like go off of like things that happened in the past, and they can't like, I don't know. I mean, like the Red Wedding is a great example. The reason that works, the best day of your life. It's not the first movie or show that's done that, but the fact that like, oh, it was a wedding and something bad had to happen. It's like, no, then I mean, you could have put it at a tournament and something bad should have happened or whatever. But like to just, if your show is so easy to read as, oh, it's a wedding, something bad's got to happen. I mean, I don't know. It reminds me a lot of my other least favorite scene, which was the one man army storming the beaches.
Oh yeah,
it's just there just for dramatic effect. They know it's not supposed to happen. They know it's unrealistic. They know it's not in character of the series or of the way that this world has been built, but they just go for it anyway. Those two scenes are very similar in that sense, where it's like, we needed him to act like a hero. We need to have something happen at the wedding. It's like, it's a little easy. They're not getting as creative as I'd like them to be.
So did you watch on the next week's episode?
No.
Oh, well, now is the biggest time jump I think we're going to see in the show. That was the last episode with these actresses as Rhaenyra, as Alicent, as Laenor, and as Lena. I think we're going to go at least 10 years into the future. Viserys is still around, looks absolutely horrible. Like, if you thought he looked bad now, imagine 10 years. It was like, someone just killed this man, all right? Like, he's like the crypt keeper. This guy's just falling apart.
I thought he was pretty much dead.
Yeah. At the end, when he collapses, I was like, well, that would be weird if he dies right now.
We didn't talk about it. The very last scene when like, at their wedding and the rat comes up and is like drinking blood in the middle of your wedding. I was like, that's how they're going to last forever. These two are meant to be.
It's a good omen.
Yeah. That rat's cleaning his face in the blood that he's drinking.
Well, of the priest says, I now pronounce you man and wife, and then the father of the bride just collapses. It's like, okay, well.
Yeah, no, the rats are like
right.
We're just going to drink this blood over here.
South Park with Kenny.
Yeah, exactly. We're just going to drink this blood over here and stare at the king who just fell. Like, that's why I was like, talk about your bad omens. Like,
so
man and wife, you may kiss the bride.
So next week, we are 10 years into the future. We get the actresses and actors who will play these roles for the entire rest of the show. I would say everything that we've seen in the prologue next week, chapter 1, the Dance of Dragons. Like, this is how this whole
I'm hoping
thing
we look back on this fondly and we're like, you know what? Now it makes sense how fast they went. That's why I've been so forgiving.
Right.
Because now if they really slow down again, I don't know why slow down is like something I just keep saying with these shows, because they need to make something new, and to make something new takes time. If you're not going to piggyback and we're not going to use the expectations that we had from the previous series, it's going to take you some time to build that. So I'm really,
and we have a good idea of who these people
slow
are.
Down and take that time. And I mean, 5 or 6 seasons, they've got plenty of time. So
right, and we have a good idea of who these characters are now. So they don't have to jam everything in. Like, we kind of understand who Daemon is. We understand who Viserys is. We have an idea. Maybe Alicent and Rhaenyra, they're not going to be the same because, now they're like 17, 18. When the show picks up, they're going to be closer to their 30s. So, like, they're going to have change. But we're going to understand it. We're going to understand that when Kristen and Rhaenyra don't like each other, it's going to make more sense than if they just picked up right now and they just told us that they had this like complicated past. Like, we actually saw how this whole thing played out. And so, like, yeah, I'm excited for next week's episode.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think it's never been done. Very similar to what we're talking about with like the Wheel of Time, just in general, not even the longer prologues, but just a prologue that like kind of throws you right into the depths of it. I feel like if they did that, and again, that we have so much history now in 5 episodes. So if they kind of, like I said, slow it down and let us just kind of take that knowledge and really make some good, strong characters, I feel like very optimistic for the, end of the season and show.
All right. So look forward to next week's episode. We're going to be talking about that. We got Andor coming out tomorrow, so we're going to have to watch those episodes. We'll put some new episodes on Andor. And eventually we're going to go back and actually talk about the Rings of Power. We did do our first episode review. Just haven't had a lot of time to get to those other episodes. We watched them, just haven't had time to talk about them on stream, just some off-stream discussions. So we got a lot of stuff coming out in the next couple of weeks. So if you like the discussions, like I always say, like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in.